Is it on? Yeah. Well, after listening to the UK members who are so advanced in home education, I will take you for a journey back in time to Italy, where things are just beginning now. I'll tell you what the situation is. So in Italy, home education is legal, but not widely known. The Italian Constitution states in Articles 30 and 33 that parents have the duty and right to support, instruct, and educate their children, thus bestowing parents, first of all parents, with the role of instructors long before the school system. It actually states that schools are provided only in case families cannot fulfill their duty. Just to tell you how central the role of parents is, on paper. More recently, the legislative decree of April 16, 1994, regarding public education, I'll tell you the articles there, 111, 147, and 148, as well as the updated legislative decree of February 2004 on primary education, recognize instruction at the home by families. Home education is subject to the following constraints. Parents must annually, so this is an annual thing, notify the appropriate school authorities of their intent to homeschool. In addition, parents or guardians must demonstrate that they have the technical or economic capacity to teach their children at home. Technical capacity basically means that the parent must have completed at least 2 full academic years of schooling beyond the level of the children he is teaching. And economic capacity simply refers to financial means. You must have either one or the other. Most homeschool families self-substantiate that they meet these criteria, though it is possible that education officials could inquire about this. And as time goes by, it's ever more common that this happens. A circular letter from the Ministry of Education has appeared during the last 3 years, stating that homeschool children must pass an annual test. This created plenty of misunderstanding and chaos among families and the school officers. Nobody seems to know exactly what the correct protocol is, especially for the primary classes. Thus, in the same school district, one can encounter completely different circumstances. Despite the existence of laws that regulate homeschooling, officials frequently mistake these education laws to mean that school attendance is required, and not merely that children must receive an education. Even among friends and family, I have personally witnessed astonished faces and comments such as, "Do you know you're going to end up in jail if you homeschool them?" This still happens, even though the earliest Italian homeschoolers are now in their 30s. The reason for this is that the Italian homeschoolers have gone into hiding for decades. Furthermore, in the past, it was not uncommon that the school district in charge of verifying the parents' capability simply avoided this task or ignored it, leaving the families on their own. When I first approached this topic, searching on the internet and looking for books on home education, I could find very little information. My eldest son is going to turn 7 in February, so I started this research about 2 years ago. What did I find? I found just a few lonely web pages, a mailing list, a Yahoo mailing list, from which I would get perhaps 4 or 5 emails a month, so it wasn't very active. I tried to start a debate using this forum, this mailing list, and most of my emails were censored, and not only mine, I discovered later on. After further inquiries, I learned about an Italian internet-based homeschooling group that would allow admission only if given very personal information. It was not an organization, it lacked in structure. It basically was another mailing list, but much more chaotic. I didn't know what to do at that point, so inspired by other nations' organizations and the work of the American homeschooling pioneer John Holt, I decided with my husband to create the first Italian homeschooling network called Conferencia. It is a support community where families can obtain clear and prompt information on legal issues. We tell them how to start, what are the basics. Just by navigating the website, you can receive all the information you need. Or you can get direct and personal advice through my personal contact or using the forum. We started this website. Excuse me, just a second. You want to come and sit here? You know, you sit there. She's not feeling well. It's okay. Excuse me. Conferences on the basic of homeschooling and gatherings have been organized in various Italian regions through our group to help encourage the growing homeschooling movement. During this first year, as I was saying, we started about a year and a half ago, I received emails from representatives of the Italian homeschooling scene asking me to stop spreading the information, to keep things quiet, and to prevent home education from growing in my country. The fewer we are, the fewer problems we will have, was their motto. Now, are they just paranoid? Or if not, why do they feel this way? I am still trying to answer these questions. I don't know. After speaking at various conferences and exchanging emails with several families through the internet, I've come to believe that it is very difficult for Italians to accept the idea of homeschooling. First of all, because it has been engraved in their consciousness that school is compulsory. This is very difficult to erase. And that the state has almost absolute power on their children after they reach school age. I personally have had to reassure several parents, telling them that it was their right and duty to take their kids out of school when they could no longer sustain certain situations. In some cases, it was the lack of proper teaching that caused the parents to take action. In other more critical circumstances, it was racism or physical abuse. And secondly, home education isn't considered an option by Italians because most families cannot envision the possibility of one parent only sustaining the family economically, or even trying to adjust working hours in order to educate their children. This is probably why Italy is experiencing a boom now of the so-called free schools, scuole libertarie, or democratic schools, where a small number of parents hire a private teacher and rent a place to use a school. For the law, these families are homeschooling, even though the parents aren't directly involved in the teaching. Even among those who see the positive opportunities offered by home education, these motivations stand as boulders between them and the fulfillment of their wish. I experienced that the best way to encourage these families is to show them how we live each day, how we manage to provide for our kids, how happy, smile, not how happy and blessed our children really are, and how joyfully my spouse and I share the task of teaching them. Nothing works better than personal experience. Another issue brought forward by parents is that one of socialization. This is one common concern for the global home education community, but it is even more tangible in my country. Having a very small community of homeschool children spread all over the peninsula, it is impossible for the majority of us to organize weekly study groups or play groups for the younger ones. During the past year, I have personally organized field trips for homeschoolers twice a month. But because there is a lack of cohesion among us and distance barriers, I must admit that it hasn't always been easy. And please notice that we live in the north of Italy, near Milan, where it is supposedly much easier to find homeschoolers. I cannot imagine how it is in the southern regions, because there we actually haven't registered many families from Rome down. Only exception is Sicily. Sicily is very active. Despite all this, there is an increased interest in the subject. The numbers are growing. Perhaps it is due to the extremely difficult situation the whole Italian school system has been going through in the last 3 years. Maybe the parents are finally realizing that their children's education is in jeopardy when put in the hands of a system that presents more faults than virtues. Unsafe school buildings that lack emergency evacuation plans, overcrowded classrooms, teachers who are substituted every month, creating a lack in continuity, deficiency in personnel and in educational tools, and ever-growing cases of violence are only some of the issues families are confronted with on a daily basis. Perhaps it is more than this. Perhaps parents are responding to their call and they are deciding to take full responsibility of their kids' education and their kids' growth, being moved by love and dedication. Our goal as a group for the months to come is to found an association. It is to organize each region separately, providing it with delegates and detailed information on its specific situation. Furthermore, we want to create a year-by-year online curriculum that parents can freely consult in order to fulfill the state's demands. The most challenging issue nowadays is the end-of-the-year examination. I was telling you, this is an annual thing. The parents are expected to bring their kids to the local school to take an end-of-the-year assessment. The exam covers a variety of subjects following the state curriculum and may be up to 3 days' worth of written tests plus 1 day of oral tests. If a homeschool student does not take the exam, or if he fails twice, officials will revoke a family's right to homeschool. I have not experienced this situation with any of the families I am in contact with, and there are about 150. But in the month of June, I have received a high volume of emails and phone calls from parents who were confused, who were scared, who were very concerned about this interaction with the school, especially since most families do not interact with the schools throughout the whole year. The children who are taught at home don't have to follow the state's curriculum. Yet, due to the officials' ignorance on the matter, or plain hostility sometimes, they are interrogated on the state program. More importantly, this exam periods often take an investigative tone, or a resentful one. For instance, we witnessed 2 cases of dyslexic children in primary classes being verbally abused during these exams. At present, some parents are hiding. A few have found sympathetic school principals, but most have to face a very challenging situation. It's as if they were being punished for not following the school system. And I would like to add that this annual examination is only for homeschoolers. It is not for children in the school system. They do not. Actually, they've been taking away exams. They've been canceling the exams that were there previously. So it is very strange. Again, I was uncertain what to do in this case. Either break cover and write a letter to the Ministry of Education denouncing these intimidations and demanding a safer and just environment for these tests to take place, or, as many have suggested, not rock the boat and keep quiet in order not to create even more dramatic consequences. Many in our homeschooling community fear that homeschooling could be made illegal. Several parents feel as though they are battling on their own. I believe that persevering in our efforts together and connecting homeschoolers throughout Europe and beyond will increase our freedom and strengthen our foundations. I personally feel as a pioneer in my country, and I am proud of it, especially after having the opportunity to relate with all the people present at this gathering. I know I have now renewed strength to encourage more families once at home. I must thank Derek, the president of ALE, who invited us to this meeting. I also have to thank all the enlightening European members and Mike Donnelly from HSLDA. Your experience, your positive way of handling very stressful situations, your reassuring words are a treasure I will keep in my heart, and I will deliver to my fellow Italians once home. I am very grateful. This will be the beginning of a new era of mutual assistance among home educating movements throughout the world. I am confident that we will achieve all our goals thanks to this long-lasting bond. Thank you.